The New York Times is reporting on what is just a stunning arrest of a CIA official after investigators found hundreds of gold bars worth more than $40 million stashed in his Virginia home. The CIA and FBI say the arrest occurred last week after the agency alerted the FBI about potential violations of the law. And according to court documents, the official, who is identified as David Rush, asked for and received a significant quantity of foreign currency and tens of millions of dollars in gold bars for work-related expenses in recent months. When agents searched Rush's home, they found approximately 303 gold bars, each of which weighed a kilogram, approximately 2 pounds. And investigators also seized $2 million in American currency and nearly 3 dozen luxury watches, many of them Rolexes. I'll note that a lawyer for Mr. Rush declined to comment to the Times, and a woman answering the phone at Mr. Rush's house hung up on a Times reporter. Former Deputy Director of National Intelligence Beth Sanner is back with me. So many questions here, so many gold bars, but what kind of circumstances does the CIA hand out hundreds of gold bars to an officer for?
Well, I can't say it ever happened to me, having been an analyst.
You don't have any gold bars?
I don't, and I never, But, you know, when you're in the operations side and you're operating in denied areas, so one that's very public and lots of people's cleared memoirs is going into Afghanistan at the beginning of going after Osama bin Laden. And CIA officers went in with millions and millions of dollars on their person. And so, you know, this is something that you do when you're working in denied areas. You know, you can look around the world. You might have said maybe Venezuela at that point in time, maybe Yemen, maybe Nigeria, places in the Middle East, maybe still Afghanistan. We don't know. But there are legitimate reasons for a case officer to have these items. You might want to give a gold watch out to an asset to either recruit them or to reward them. You need
maybe
cash.
not 30, but maybe not 30.
Well, you know, you got a lot of assets.
Yeah, that's right. So there's so much here. The web, right? He's accused of lying about his qualifications as well over the years. The Times says that he inflated his academic credentials and falsely claimed to be a member of the Navy Reserve when he was discharged and then collected pay for that. How does the CIA, of all organizations, miss that?
Okay, so when I looked through the affidavit, 2 things came to mind. One is that the guy's a pathological liar, and I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know if that's true. So I'm trying not to slander anybody, but that's how I would read it. You know, and
that he's different than than most of the population.
Yeah, I mean, the definition
for how they'd represent themselves
the definition
and get
of
away
a
with it.
pathological liar is someone who lies and, you know, makes these kind of knowing lies, things that can be found out, but has so much confidence and truly believes what they're telling you. And so therefore, you can pass a polygraph if you're a pathological liar because you truly believe what you're saying is correct.
Because physiologically, they're not giving
react.
Off the things that a polygraph would pick up.
You're not sweating when you're lying.
Because how,
You're not breathing heavily. You believe it.
Would he have been polygraphed when he started? I mean,
yeah,
you think he would have passed multiple or what?
Multiple. He was in for 17 years. So yeah, I mean, he passed, you know, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, depends on what his job was or whatever. So clearly he lied. But the other part of this is there was some systemic failure here.
Allegedly.
They should have caught his, allegedly, please.
Yep.
They should have caught that claim that he went to Clemson, that he went to Rensselaer, that he was claiming a different rank in the Navy. And I suspect what happened here, and I do not know, but I suspect what happened here is he was retiring and they were starting to go through the paperwork to count his number of years of service, and all of a sudden things started not falling into place.
Because looking at it as a total thing.
Yes.
You think on the front end too, though, you should notice it on the front end.
This is the potential systemic problem.
Okay, yeah, so talk about that, because if this is indicative of some sloppy work, they're really going to be questioning, and certainly there's going to be a lot of scrutiny from Congress. about how they're doing things.
Yes, and things have changed a lot since when he joined in 2009. A lot. The process has changed. We now have, well, not we, but CIA and the intelligence community uses all sorts of, AI and computer searches and all of these things. Like, I can't say that what happened here 17 years ago would be anywhere close to how it is done today. There have been significant changes in the hiring process to make it more efficient, to rely more on internet searches and as well as investigations. So that's that. But I also will say, knowing CIA and having enormous respect for the professionals who still are there, absolutely, they're going to take this seriously. They're going to be more upset than anyone that this happened, and they are going to do their own investigations, and I guarantee they will look and they will fix. But of course, Congress will be asking a lot of questions as well.
Yeah.
A huge embarrassment.
Huge. It's so mind-blowing and alarming.
It is. It's sad. But, big organizations, bad people sometimes.
I have to ask you about this story about this CIA officer. You are formerly the director of the CIA. I know that you're talking to your former colleagues all the time about Iran, but I suspect that over the last hours, your text chain has been blowing up about this story, as I'm sure so many people in your position and who've worked at the CIA are seeing that happen. What do you make of this, a former CIA officer in Virginia being charged with stealing tens of millions of dollars in gold bars and foreign currency, or I should say accused of that, and facing some charges in federal court?
Well, without obviously knowing the full story here, and it'd be interesting to see what the defense is in terms of holding on to 300 gold bars. Something went terribly wrong here. That's the one thing I think you can't help but conclude. You have somebody whose background checks were not made. He basically lied about his education, lied about his military experience, and somehow that was never checked out when he was being hired. Big mistake. And secondly, when somebody is able to make off with 300 bars, gold bars, it means that the process of being able to check that and to make sure that never happens broke down. So there's a lot of questions here that raise questions not just about the individual arrested, but whether the CIA, in terms of their process, failed to do what was necessary.
Yeah, and this is someone with a long career, right? So there's questions about years after years